he leapt into the magical caves, his heart full of vigor, his mind brimmed with dreams of fortune plundered from the depths of the caverns below. Little did he know that the only thing in the caves was a collection of vintage Tottenham Hotspur shirts and the legendary river of disappointment.
Wait, what?
Yep, just the mountains of the finest reusable anal cleansing rags and endless rows of bottles to complete the scene.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Halcyon Show. My name is Lord Wisey and I am going to be your host for this episode. Platformers. I'm playing a lot of them right now. It seems to be a genre that's reasonably easy to develop for because there's a lot of platformers. However, every once in a while I come across one that, yes, might be somewhat derivative, or yes, might feel somewhat familiar, but just does everything so well that you can't help but be roped in by its charm. And I want to talk about one of those very platformers today, the StoryTale. And I heard it from the notes page. The release date is the 15th of August 2019. The developer is Maxim Nuriev. Nuriev. And the publisher is oh god damn it. Oh, you get it by now. The StoryTale is a fairy tale platformer where everything goes bing bang boom, but everyone remain alive and healthy. Okay? It's a game where you constantly forget the spells and the weapons are cursed, but even in the midst of the swirling action you can stop and think over the next step. I think it's fair to say that the English isn't this developer's first language, with a name like Maxim Nuriev. Okay, we'll forgive it, it's fine. The little princess didn't want to be a queen. Her secret dream was to become a sorceress. One day she quietly left the palace in search of a magical amulet. Another hero of the story was the prince, the immortal prince. As soon as he learned that the... Wait a minute. Why wouldn't you just call him the immortal prince from the beginning? That's kind of an important point. You wanted to say, oh, he's a prince. Oh, by the way, he's an immortal prince, but okay, fine. Whatever. I'm right there with you. As soon as he learned that the princess from the neighbouring kingdom was lost in the dark dungeons, he quickly went ahead to find and save her. Fair play to the lad. The game is currently priced at £9.87 on Steam, and as I mentioned earlier, it's been out for coming up to about a month now. What do I think about this game? It's a really solid platformer, and ultimately I couldn't really find a tremendous amount to fault the game. It's got a wealth of content, it's very well produced. Again, as I referenced earlier, it's quite charming. The gameplay is diverse and interesting, and even though it's on the slightly more expensive side, I ultimately think that this game is worth it. So why do I think that this platformer is worthy of your attention when there are dozens of other platformers that perhaps have better thumbnails, which seems to be sort of the benchmark of quality in indie games? I'm guilty of it as well, don't worry. I look at a thumbnail and decide whether or not a game's going to be good or bad based entirely on one image rather than the gameplay. It's okay, we all do it. It's just wrong. No, stop doing that. But ultimately, why is this game worth your money rather than others? Well, let's start by talking about the gameplay that this game has to offer.
The game centres around taking a platformer, like the Mario games for instance, and imbuing it with elements from children's stories and a much more active narrative that we'll talk about much more later. The game operates with the same mechanics that you're used to, albeit you have an action button which allows you to use an ability that will aid you in the completion of a level, or a chapter as they're known in this game. You'll traverse the levels looking for keys to unlock chests to access a portal to progress to the next level, usually red, then blue, and finally green. The hook with this game is that each level typically has its own unique gimmick that prevents it from falling into the generic fetch quest style game. For example, one level lets you stop time when you stop moving, and only starts up again when you begin to move, allowing you to take your time to plot your next move. Another level arms you with the mallet, which prevents you from jumping, but you can swing to clear your enemies and indeed launch yourself into the air. Another is utilising a teleport mechanic. Another is turning into a giant. And this doesn't even touch on the variations of the in-game level designs themselves. You have some really interesting levels, each with varying paths to take, enemies to avoid or goals to achieve before you can progress. The keys playing a crucial part in many levels as the game likes to twist your expectations, such as leaving multiple chests with the same colour to confuse you, locking keys behind walls unlocked by other keys, altering your powers mid-level to change how you traverse the level. There's nothing this game will not do to keep you on your toes and keep you engaged with it chapter to chapter. The two main characters, the princess and the immortal prince, function in much the same way, able to jump, grip ledges, and wall jump to scale otherwise inaccessible areas of the map. But the only difference between the two being that the immortal prince doesn't die when coming into contact with the enemies. Duh. He simply gets bounced back or thrown, whereas the princess will be teleported back to the start of the level or to save points dotted around the map that you need to interact with to activate. But despite this, it's almost always a good idea to avoid the enemies that you encounter. Speaking of the enemies, the game has a good variety, ranging from trolls that have spears, arrows, magic and bombs, to ghostly spirits that look like Haunter and the Grim Reaper from Bill and Ted Had a Ominous Offspring. Each enemy has a different attack or movement. Trolls with spears will charge at you, trolls armed with bows or crossbows will attempt to knock you off ledges and moving platforms, and the ghosts will attack you on sight. But the really nice touch is that every enemy has its own quirks and mannerisms, and this doesn't just emphasise the gameplay elements, it really helps immerse you in its world. There's no health or lives to worry about in this game, and besides the timers on your powers, there's no pesky limits to the powers that you obtain throughout the course of the game. This means that there's nothing else to collect to power up your character, but there are sometimes collectibles for characters scattered around the world. Often trolls that have lost some trinket or item that they need you to retrieve, which will involve some backpedaling, which is a two-edged sword in this game. Sometimes the level design is imperious, and you don't mind backtracking as other elements of the level will be unlocked and you get to enjoy them again. However, in some cases, the water levels being particularly culpable for this, they can be more annoying than inspired, given the lack of movement freedom is kind of inhibiting. As you can see, the game is not without its faults. The levels, while varied, can be inconsistent, with some levels feeling far too long given the nature of the platformer genre. You don't want levels going on for more than 5 to 10 minutes, and some levels can have you angrier than a constipated Hulk, with the mechanics fighting you more than they're helping you. Looking right at you on this one, Mallet! Also, the fact that it's a chapter-based game, I wish I could replay levels I liked with the powers I found fun. Plus, I can't view my progress, which can be a little bit frustrating, but I can also understand it doesn't make you feel daunted by how many levels this game has. Spoiler alert, it has over 100. Finally, I wish that the drop mechanic was a little bit more sensitive. Hanging on the edge can be handy, but it's also annoying when you have to jump to release the hold sometimes, potentially vaulting into the vast yawning chasm of doom that this game presents. But none of these things spoil what is a really fun, interesting, engaging, and most of all, thoughtful experience that will provide you with tons of hours of gameplay goodness. The powers, the enemies, the level designs, the difference in gameplay per those level designs, and the progression system that allows you to continually save your progress as you go, this game has a little bit of something to offer everybody, especially when you consider that the game has a full-blown narrative.
And now that we've got the gameplay out of the way, let's talk about the game's design. Let's talk about its aesthetics, its overall look and feel, and again why I think this game goes a long way to capturing your imagination and charming the holy hell out of you.
This game is utterly gorgeous, with tons of tiny details that you notice as you play, from the animations of the main characters they run and bound through the chapters, the way their clothes and their hair moves, or how they run, or what they do when they're idling, the way they tiptoe over the edge as you get too close, the way they come in contact with enemies. And as I mentioned before, they all have a personality. They grunt and wander when they're not attacking. They get a crazed look in their eyes when they bear down on you. No, not in that way. Remember, Jesus is watching now, perverts. The backgrounds look deep and detailed, and while they sometimes share themes, the levels all have a unique feel to them, and indeed based on their look, the gameplay elements that it presents. Meaning that while it's fair to say that the developer has been economical with their design, they've optimized the assets so that they have at their disposal to create levels that all but eliminate tedium. This game really does feel unique level to level. The soundtrack is again really good, varied, thematic, relaxing. It just sounds like the sort of thing that Clintons would chuck in their fairy tale books instead of an Elvis voice modulator. You just seen those cards when it opens up a ho ho? Yeah, that kind of thing, but for storybooks and nice. The only thing I would change from a design perspective is that when the game begins, I would have the story narration that kicks off every chapter run along the bottom of the screen and follow you until the narration is complete, as this would make following the story a bit easier to follow in tandem with the narrator herself, which by the way is done competently. The voice actress sure lacks a little emotion in the delivery, making it come across more robotic than romantic, but even so, it's a nice touch by the developer to keep you up to speed with the game. The narration as the course of the game progresses helps you keep abreast with the story, which isn't groundbreaking. It's a fairy tale of a princess desiring another life and power, and the prince desiring to rescue her. It's simplistic, but all good storybooks are, and I like how the game continuously presents you with the story as you progress, switching from princess to prince. It never really breaks your immersion, and considering that it's based on a chapter system, it never feels old. It feels like a lovely addition to this game, and it's a wonder why more developers don't include it. Overall, I just love the look and theme of this game. It's colourful, detailed, interesting, and just plain charming. Prince and Princess charming, you could say. Okay, that was a further stretch than even Stretch Armstrong could manage, for a pun, but hey, I tried, and that's all that counts. The presentation and story of this game, the charm it exudes, it's all wonderful. And for that reason, and that reason alone, I was hooked from the second I first booted up the game to the last point I played it.
And there you have it, the StoryTale. I really enjoyed this game, and I'm really glad about the level of content that it has to offer, the overall level of quality of polish, the thought that's been taken into producing a game that hopefully gives a little bit of something to everybody, the hardcore platformer gamer who loves those really interesting, really hard levels, the slightly easier platformer that likes just to be able to say, I did the level, yay me. Even people that crave a little bit more from their platformers in terms of a story and a narrative and a reason for going through these levels on a constant basis. This game really seems to hit the nail on the head as far as everything is concerned, but doesn't do it in a way that feels like it spreads itself too thin. And that's why, even though, again, as I referenced at the beginning of the review, that it is on the pricier side, ultimately this game is totally worth that price point, considering the sheer amount of content on offer here. I think there's over 100 levels. The diversity of the gameplay, the fact that he even bothered to include a narrative that's kind of not thrown by the wayside in any way, shape or form, and the fact that it just has a level of charm and quality to it that's you can't quite put your finger on, but is undeniably there. Who would really benefit from this game? Well, ultimately, I don't think it necessarily appeals to the hardcore platformers. I think they'll breeze through the levels too quickly for it to be any real worth to them. But again, a novice to platforming would really enjoy this game because of how inviting it is and how nice it is. It's not foreboding, it doesn't feel overwhelming, mainly because of the fact that it doesn't display how many levels you've got to go through and you don't go, wow, that's a lot. I'm not playing that. It just takes you step by step by baby step, introducing the mechanics as you go and encouraging you to progress. It's a lovely, lovely game, and I'd highly recommend that you play it. But ultimately, it doesn't matter what I think, it matters what you think. The StoryTale, have you played it, have you seen it? What did you think about it if you have? And if you haven't, what are some other platformers that spoke to you for whatever reason? It could be because the gameplay was simplistic and it made you feel good at gaming. It could be because it was super challenging and it reinforced the fact that you got good. Or maybe it's because it made a connection with you on an emotional level for whatever reason. Maybe the story spoke to you, maybe the design, the audio, whatever it was. It has a place right in here now. And it's okay. We all have a little home inside here for our games. It's okay. You're among friends here. But what did you think? Leave me your thoughts in the comment section below. But in the meantime though, thank you very much for watching this edition of the Halcyon Show. Please like, share and subscribe and check out some of the other content creators in that happy little description box below. Also feel free to check me out over on Defunct Games channel. Did a few quizzes over there recently. Hopefully going to get that sucker back on for a podcast soon because goddamn that guy's got a lot to talk about and I want to hear what he has to say. Also feel free to go check me out on BShoot, another website that I've been uploading my content to recently. If for whatever reason you don't want to watch me here on YouTube, it's okay, no one's going to judge you. Also feel free to check out some of the other content creators, such as Entertainment. That guy's been cranking out content daily, nightly, and ever so rightly recently, so I would implore you to go check him out. Also check out some of the other content creators like GFY, The Nutty Ninja, Cronenborg, and 5 Minute Discussions. I don't give her a shout out anyway, but her content is absolutely breathtaking. It really is. It's a wonderful channel and sorely underrated for the content she produces, so please go feel free to go check her out and support her content as well. I'd really appreciate it if you wouldn't mind doing that. In the meantime though, I hope you're taking care of yourselves. I hope you're checking me out over on Twitter as well, @LawRisey. Feel free to give me a follow over there. Yeah, I think that's about it. So thank you very much for watching me. My name's been Lorne Risey, I've been your host. And I'll say, yeah, Halcyon Show. Yeah, thanks for watching. Take care, all that stuff. Yeah, bye.